Awaken the chosen ones in your spirit when God takes away his chosen. The world won't realize until it's too late. There's something frightening about the silence after a storm. Not the kind of relief. You know, the kind when you suddenly realize that the hurricane's eye was a warning, not the end. Throughout history, the presence of the divinely chosen has led to the prosperity of civilizations, nations, and even individuals. Unaware of it, they often mistake divine warnings for background noise, protection for good fortune, and grace for chance. One day, the chosen are gone. People whose statements, because to their veracity, were disliked. Who had an aura of presence. No one could explain who had tampered with items that should have been tampered with. It's that easy. The result? A shift. A reckoning. A gap no one saw coming. This is more than just a metaphor. Important people have often been abruptly removed before major events like collapse, war, anarchy, and judgment. The Bible says that when Lot left Sodom, there was fire. The exit of Jesus from the temple, devastation occurred. Even now, society often doesn't acknowledge the importance of certain people until irreparable damage has been done. If you were among those who sneered at the selected, ignored their warnings, or treated them like spam emails, now could be the moment to start listening. Because when God says it's time to go and your mission is accomplished, it's not simply a departure, it's an event. And trust me when I tell you that no one likes what comes next. First position. Never did you come here to comfort me. You were here because of collisions. Those who are God's chosen cannot afford the luxury of fitting in. They are not nameless, quiet, or indifferent to existence. Their very existence creates conflict, not because they intentionally seek it out, but because they contribute something that disturbs the status quo. They force people to either embrace or reject the truth as soon as they step into a place just by existing. Things shift. Spiritual complacency, generational cycles, and false narratives begin to undermine established systems. People may sometimes feel uncomfortable without even knowing why. Charm and charisma have no bearing on it. It's not just that, a divine decree that keeps corruption from being unnoticed. Because of this, God's chosen people often face hostility, rejection, and betrayal. Not because they're acting improperly, but because they're doing exactly what they were supposed to do. They weren't there to make amends for dysfunction. They were sent to make it public. They were never meant to be loved. They were asked to act as a reminder that darkness does not have to last forever. But here's the issue. Their time is limited. They were never supposed to stand still. When individuals have fulfilled their function, God takes them out, not as a last-minute choice, but as a deliberate move. Some people won't notice their departure until it's too late. Ultimately, others will realize that the same thing they rejected was the only thing keeping them from passing judgment. The chosen had nothing to comfort them. They were here to fight against something that was never meant to stand. Furthermore, after their job is completed, their withdrawal is not a retreat. It's a proclamation. Second, your leaving is a divine design rather than a retreat. Leaving is not the same as losing. It does not imply failure, unresolved issues, or giving up. God does not take away his chosen ones because they were too weak to stay. This is because their life has already served its function. They were never meant to fix everything. They were just sent to alter the atmosphere. Once that is complete, removing them is not the only requirement. It's a strategic move. Some may see their departure as desertion. Others could conclude that they were weaker than they seemed to be. It's a mistake people make all the time, as if their strength, their prayers, and their mere existence are what keep everything from falling apart. They believe that God's chosen people are destined to carry the weight of everything indefinitely. But they were never meant to do more than act as a warning, a catalyst, or a temporary protection. When they are gone, the effects of what was ignored, put aside, or fought against will be profound. People seldom understand the value of someone's presence until it is taken away. After the chosen are gone, things don't just stay the same. They separate. Their departure, not because the chosen ones want catastrophe, is proof that grace has evolved. God doesn't take away his people at random. It's always a sign that something is about to change. Although most people will be ready for those who thought they had more time. Those who thought they could keep up the resistance. Those who thought they were in control. They will learn what happens when those who are restraining the storm are removed, because God is not only changing individuals when he takes away his chosen. He is changing the course of history. Third position. Your presence addressed an issue that no longer needs your help. God never places his chosen ones at random. They are assigned to certain eras, places, and people for a particular purpose, whether it be a nation, a city, a family, or just one person. Their existence is a reaction to their spiritual crises, but most individuals are unaware of it until it is too late. Here's the truth, however. They were never meant to stay. Their time there was brief. Their purpose had a deadline, and their presence was a miraculous solution to a problem that could not be resolved in any other way. After the problem has been fixed, whether it involves bringing it to light, relocating it, or giving people another chance to change, they don't have to remain. This is where most people make blunders. They consider the people they have chosen to be just fixtures in their lives. Always. They carry the load and pray all the while. They take for granted the information, the safeguards, and the warnings. Because they think they will always be around, some individuals even despise or resist them. But eventually they vanish. No explanation. No wait, just gone. That's when reality sets in. People who ignored them start to feel as if they are no longer there. The peace that surrounded them was gone. The supernatural's favor. Lost. There is no longer the silent protection. The chosen ones were then recognized as more than just another voice, person, or presence. They were the reason everything hadn't fallen apart sooner. God removes his chosen because they have completed their mission, and those left behind are not relieved by it. It acts as a caution, because of the absence of those who are providing the light. Darkness doesn't just resurface. It assumes command. Fourth position. You weren't sent for love. The warning was what you were there for. Many people like the idea of being God's chosen one before they realize what it really means. It doesn't mean admiration, praise, or approval. It means saying things others don't want to hear and going into places you shouldn't be. It means being labeled as extreme, difficult, or even dangerous. Not because you're wrong, but because you can't bear to be silent. History proves it. The prophets were not celebrated. They were stoned, exiled, and murdered. Jesus, the greatest of all, was rejected. He was betrayed by them. Jesus was wrongly accused and put to death by the exact people he came to heal. Why would it be different for those he sends? God's chosen ones are not supposed to comfort others in their illusions. They are sent to destroy them, expose lies, topple established systems, and act as a warning that God is keeping an eye on us. But here's the problem. People like darkness more than light. They'd rather not be awakened. What they want is to be left alone. Thus, when the chosen one wields a sword and assaults with the truth, resistance is inevitable. This is not a rejection of you personally. It's prophetic. The world has always opposed those who speak the truth. They mock, reject, or try to destroy them in the hope that if they silence the messenger, they can silence the message. But the reality remains, and so do the consequences of ignoring it. Don't be surprised if you are misunderstood, rejected, or even hated. You weren't made to win hearts. Whether they took your warning seriously is up to them, but you never wanted to be loved. The objective was to make sure they had no excuse when the moment came. The sixth was that you would never get the change you hoped for in the world. Each chosen individual has to face a harsh reality. Not everyone will change, no matter how much information is shown to them. You may offer them your whole self, preach, warn, and pray, but some will never wake up. Not because they don't understand, but because they don't want to. It's easy to believe that if you simply say the right things or show them enough love, they'll open their eyes. But it's difficult to alter the hearts of certain individuals. Not everyone is asleep. They are purposefully suppressing the truth because it threatens their comfort, their control, or their delusions. Furthermore, no matter how hard you try, you cannot impose the type of change that only God can bring about. So you were never meant to fix the world. The objective was to give the planet a chance. Every warning you gave, every word you spoke, every moment you tried to wake people, you didn't find it satisfactory. It was to ensure that they couldn't say, "I didn't know," when the time came for everything they had been neglecting to eventually come crashing down. It's not your job to get folks to listen. It is your duty to deliver the message. Whether they accept is up to them and God. Some will be changed. Some won't. Either way, you accomplished your goal. Consequently, don't be disappointed. Avoid the repercussions of their decisions. You were never sent to make a difference in the world. When the moment for judgment came, you were sent to make sure it had no defense. Number 6. Your adversity wasn't justified. It was a tangible communication. Your suffering, loneliness, rejection, and betrayals were never only about you. It was no accident. No vengeance, no tragedy. A message was present. You fulfilled a prophecy, a warning in the form of a person. God's chosen people say more than just the truth. They become it. They carry the weight of the message in their own lives, in their own wounds, in their own struggles, before they even speak. They are preaching just by being there. Even if many people ignore what they say, there is no denying the evidence of their existence. That is why the attacks took place. That's why people turned against you. The cause of your misinterpretation. Why did doors shut when they should have opened? Not because you were wrong, but because your existence exposed things that others would like to keep hidden. You spoke about more than just endurance. You persisted. You did more than just warn of betrayal. You made it through it. You stated more than just no. You have firsthand experience of it. Your suffering served as the proof. It proved that nothing you said was just hypothetical. It was real, and there was a choice for those who watched. Either learn from your experience or act as if they didn't see it. Some individuals will wake up because of your sorrow. Unless they experience it themselves, others won't take notice. Your suffering wasn't in vain, anyhow. Thus, don't think of your scars as just wounds. They are evidence that you issued a message that was more than simply a warning. The warning was what you were there for, and whether or not they listened. They had every chance to listen, and your life will be proof of that. The seventh is that your silence now matters more than your presence ever did. People sometimes don't realize what they have until it is taken away. They don't hear, but they do listen. They watch, but they don't understand. And then you're gone one day. No more warnings. Put an end to your prayers. Being absent. Preserving everything. Then reality hits. Your absence is more than just a mere disappearance. God is making an announcement. The people who turned you down will start to notice the difference. The peace they thought was typical, lost. The fact that they were protected was unknown to them. The heightened understanding caused them to roll their eyes. Everything now made clear. This is how God does it. He awakens up those who don't listen while they still have the chance, and He protects His chosen ones. Some will reflect and realize their mistake. Others will scramble to find someone else to fill the void. Things won't be the same, however, since you provided more than simply knowledge and compassion. It was a divine gift. Moreover, obligations cannot be replaced by convenience. The silence you leave behind will never be broken by your words, because there are other things that people are hearing these days than what you said. They are feeling the loss of what you carried, and that's the real warning. If your presence was a statement of grace, then your absence is a reminder that grace has limits. You'll have to live with the idea that those who ignored, ridiculed, or rejected you had access to something special and divine, but they chose to ignore it. The eighth digit. Your mission was a final test for everyone in your vicinity. Your presence in people's lives was never a coincidence. It was an experiment, not for you, but for them. How they responded, how they treated you, and whether or not they listened to you. They were filming it all. Some thought they were just talking to a normal person, but in reality, they were performing a divine mission. Throughout history, God has used people as warnings, opportunities, and second chances. Still, the pattern continues to recur. They are ignored, mistreated, and attacked. Jesus himself was rejected in his homeland. Prophets were ridiculed, derided, and even killed. In the past, the world has failed these tests and subsequently had to cope with the consequences. Some of the people you encountered had a chance to relate to you and change their conduct accordingly. Rather, they discredit you, circulated false information, or even conspired against you. Not because they were illiterate, but rather because they refused to accept that God had placed anything sacred in their way. They passed up the opportunity for a blessing. The test is now complete. The way they responded has decided their fate. To get you to listen and pay attention, they had to treat you nicely at that time. It's gone. It will be too late for some people to learn who you were and what you carried. But knowing does not diminish the judgment that comes when God takes away His chosen. It's not just about relocating. The objective is to close the book on those who will not see. After the test is evaluated and the results are in, they will have to live with their choice. Number 9, the battle is bigger than you. The removal of you is a planned act. There are other people in your life besides you. Your purpose goes beyond your own fulfillment or pleasure. You are involved in a greater spiritual battle. Furthermore, you are not randomly transferred by God. It's a strategic move. Soldiers don't ask why they are transferred from one place to another. They don't question the orders, the timing, or the procedures. They think that God is guiding you from one place to another because your purpose has changed, that something is occurring that they cannot understand, and that there is a bigger plan. You can think you're at the right spot and doing the right things, holding on to one's job. That's important. But God knows the strategy and has a bird's-eye perspective of the battlefield. And sometimes it means relocating his chosen ones. When your work is done and you are no longer needed, God takes you out of a place or time. Therefore, the struggle may be won in different ways. This is hard to understand while you're in the middle of it. You could experience feelings of marginalization, disregard, or even discarding. However, in reality, your removal is part of a larger strategic move altogether. God is concerned with more than one dispute. He is seeing the issue holistically, and sometimes the best way to win is to move the pieces in ways we don't comprehend. Faith in God's timing and plan requires a level of assurance that isn't about seeing the results immediately, but rather that his purpose is greater than what we now comprehend. He doesn't take you away because you failed. This is because your job has changed over time. Right now, the battle is developing in a way that is beyond your capacity. 10th position. The only thing that kept some people safe was your presence. You were more than just a comfort to those around you. Yet many people don't know that. It acted as a barrier. God's favor was extended to people, places, and situations because of you. You were the cover. They were not entitled to the grace they couldn't merit. Your life acted as a kind of spiritual canopy, providing safety and compassion when none was asked for or even acknowledged. And the grace that God bestowed upon you safeguarded them throughout your whole stay. But when you finish your work and God sends you away, that canopy is removed. The protection they unknowingly depended on, the elegance they once had, no longer protects them. The consequences they managed to avoid while you were around will now return to haunt them. Whether it was a family that stuck together, a firm that made money, or a municipality that thrived, God's favor enabled it to happen, and you were at the center of it all. It will hit you hard to learn that you will be taken out. The part that they didn't realize came from you was the favor that seemed to come to them out of the blue. Now they'll see it for what it was, a short-term loan linked to your appearance. Some will try to use that protection after you're gone, but it will be too late. The covering you offered them was never preserved by them. It was always what you did, what you trusted, and what you did. For others, this will be a stark reminder that the grace they formerly took for granted is no longer there. Now, they will have to cope with the consequences of their choices. And, maybe too late, they will wonder why they didn't see how important your presence was sooner. 11. You were a temporary disruption, not a permanent fixture. It never was your intention to be a fixture. Instead of camping out, God's chosen ones are deliberately positioned to sow problems. You weren't sent to blend in or be irregular. You were a brief force of divine turmoil, a wrecking ball designed to get things moving and started. And let's be honest, that kind of fire doesn't burn in one place long. If you'd stayed too long and tried to settle down, that fire would have gone out. And what had been a blaze of truth and change would have been turned into a pile of frozen ashes. God's chosen are not meant to blend in. He sends them off to unsettle. It might be a population, a situation, or a method of thought. You were there to provoke, to question, to stir things up, and maybe to make people uncomfortable. The purpose of the heavenly wrecking ball is to shake people out of their complacency and destroy everything that isn't founded in reality or God's will. See, the role is seldom long-term. However, if you had stayed too long, people would have stopped listening. It wouldn't have been as painful. The assignment would have slipped their minds. This familiarity is not meant to quench God's fire. Its objective is to blaze with strength, brightness, and purpose. Furthermore, it progresses until it eventually gets dull. You were only there for a little time. You weren't meant to stay here indefinitely. You were sent to stir things up, to change things, and then to continue. Furthermore, when you leave, the exact alteration that was necessary is left behind, along with the echo of your disruption. 12. All you were supposed to do was plant in hard soil and not reap the rewards. Sometimes success isn't what we anticipate. A common definition of success is seeing the fruits of one's labor, seeing the material results of their efforts. But it wasn't about reaping for yourself to succeed. It's related to planting. You were called to the hard terrain that no one else could reach, the rocky or dry soil that no one else could handle. It was your job to break through the harsh, unforgiving terrain and cultivate the apparently unattainable soil, not to gather the produce. It's easy to believe that your work was incomplete since you couldn't see the progress, yet your calling was never about external manifestations. You weren't meant to stay long enough to see the plants and crops grow. You had an obligation to prepare the land for someone else. You were the one who unlocked hearts that had been closed for years and tore down barriers in situations that others thought were irreparable. In addition, even though you were not there to see the fruits of your labor, you planted seeds in soil that would subsequently be cared for by others. In actuality, not all seeds sprout immediately. Others will take years to develop, and others may not even show up throughout your lifetime. That doesn't take away from the worth of your work, however. You were a cultivator, not a harvester. The hardest work is often the one that no one sees. Preparing for a harvest that you may never see firsthand, the unseen, quiet work. Your pursuit was never about instant gratification, in the hopes that someone else would eventually come along and gather the fruit. It included planting seeds in places where others were scared to go. 13. Your departure marks the beginning of judgment rather than the conclusion of your influence. God never quietly and covertly destroys his chosen. It is a prophetic warning that things is about to change, and not in the way people expect. You were more than just an object. You were the last call and warning when God removed you from a situation or place. You will continue to have an impact. It marks the beginning of judgment. You were the last line of defense against what was about to happen. Think about it this way. Your time. Words were insufficient. You had to step in, put yourself between God's wrath and those in need of mercy, and prevent a cascade of consequences while you were there. You could have felt like the voice that no one listened to. Despite the fact that the person wasn't valued, your presence kept the storm at bay. Now that you've been exiled, the storm may come. The systems, people, and locations you affected will now have to cope with the fallout from their deeds. This is not a place to penalize you. It has to deal with the accountability of others, how they treated you, how they ignored your cautions, and how they didn't take the information you supplied seriously. It has consequences for everything. After you go, your legacy lives on. At this stage, they will be held responsible for how they respond to the information you provide. Those who ridiculed or mistreated you will now face the results of their unwillingness to accept the message. Furthermore, some individuals won't be able to wake up in time. Peace is not the silence that arises when God moves his chosen. It serves as a preface to judgment. The strongest reminder to those who didn't listen that they had a chance will also be your departure. Your work was never meant to be glamorous. It had nothing to do with gaining respect from others, fitting in, or receiving acclaim. The secret was always obedience. You answered the phone, finished the assignment that was given to you, and accepted the call. There was no need for approval or acclaim since your reward was never linked to tangible recognition. It was about reaching your objectives, regardless of how difficult, alienating, or misunderstood they may be. Now when it's time for you to go, don't turn back. The completed task is the completed task. You've completed your mission. Nothing can change it. The lives you touched, the seeds you planted, and the words you said. These have all been recognized. Your obedience was adequate. You cannot take away anything that God has written for you. You showed up and followed instructions. Now is the time to go. To see the results, you didn't work hard. It was to carry out God's larger purpose for you and everyone around you. Therefore, don't second-guess or wonder whether your trip was beneficial. You were sent. You followed instructions. And you leave right away, just as written. Your time here is ended, and God will take care of the rest. Trust that your impact will continue to grow. Whether you know it or not, you've done your part. And now that you're gone, you may go knowing that you achieved your objective exactly as planned. If this message resonated with you, don't disregard it. Give it out. Someone out there needs to hear it. Click the subscribe button to stay up to date, and make sure you don't miss any more thought-provoking articles like this one. Like the video. Please share your thoughts by leaving a comment if it struck a chord with you. Which of these struck a chord with you? You can be the reminder that someone else needs you because you have a voice. Don't forget to also share this video. Maybe someone needs a reminder, a fresh viewpoint, or a gentle nudge to keep things in perspective. They are not going alone on this journey. To assist them in learning the truth, share this with them. Let's carry on the conversation. Spread the word and remind ourselves that we are all a part of something much bigger. Your participation is very important. Let's keep moving forward together. We appreciate you watching.